good evening. This is the current affairs session for July. All right, so let us have a look at the important articles. The very first one, the vital importance of Putin. So this is an important article from the GS2 international relations perspective and the effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest. Okay. So what is the ongoing story? Prime Minister Modi will be in Russia to meet President Vladimir Putin on Monday and Tuesday. That is today and yesterday. The meeting went on between Prime Minister and Vladimir Putin, Russian Premier. The two leaders, they have met total 16 times since Modi became the Prime Minister, but not since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, provoking wide-ranging Western sanctions. Okay, so 16 times Modi and Putin had a meeting, but ever since the onset of Ukraine war invasion, the meeting didn't happen. Okay, so what are the key takeaways? So let us try to understand the importance of meeting with Putin. Okay, now we know that Modi has become the Prime Minister of India for the third time, and in his outdoor visits, he has chosen Russia for his first bilateral visit since he has sworn in as the Prime Minister. Okay, so you can see over here, in choosing Russia for his first bilateral visit after sworn in, Modi has broken down the tradition of India's new Prime Minister traveling to the neighboring country. Okay, so up till now, the convention and the tradition had been that Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister usually visits India's neighbor for his first bilateral visit. But Modi, this time, that is in his third tenure, he has broken this convention, this tradition, and instead of visiting the neighboring country of India, he has chosen to visit Russia. So that signifies the importance of Russia in India's foreign policy. So you can see that he in 2014, when Modi for the first time he became the Prime Minister, he followed this tradition and he met India's neighboring country Bhutan. Then for the second time when he became the Prime Minister, he visited two neighboring countries, Maldives and Sri Lanka. Okay. But now we see that he has chosen Russia for his first bilateral visit. Okay. Now, last month we know that Modi had been to Italy, but that was a multilateral meeting of G7 leaders. It was not the bilateral visit. Okay, so if you talk about the first bilateral meeting after being sworn in as the Prime Minister, this is to Russia. Okay, now the visit to Russia is a statement of importance New Delhi gives or accords to its relationship with Moscow, and it underlines the priority of India's foreign policy. Okay, so this is important thing. Okay, now if we talk about India and Russia's relation, so India and Russia's relationship is 7 decades old, 70 years old relationship, and over the years the relation has diversified in the multipolar world. Okay, now if you look at in certain areas the relation has stagnated, but if we look at the certain sections we have accelerated. Like if we talk about defense, so defense is one of the strongest pillars when we talk about India Russia relationship. Okay, also not only defense, nuclear and space cooperation, these are also the important areas where we cooperate with Russia. Apart from that, if you look at the history, USSR was a main supplier of defense equipments to India during the time of Cold War. Rather, you must be aware about the 1971 Indo-Soviet Treaty of Friendship. So this is a time of war with Pakistan. War with Pakistan, that is 1971 war, where Bangladesh was created. During this time, India had signed a treaty with Soviet, that is Indo-USSR or Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty. And in this treaty, USSR helped India with defense equipments, like tanks were being given, choppers were being given. So a lot of help was done by USSR. Also, it is during this particular war only USA had threatened India that US naval fleet will attack on India if India continue with the war on Pakistan. Uh, and it is also said that the US with its naval fleet came in Bay of Bengal. But during that time, Soviet Union stood behind India like a formidable, you can say, supporter. And Soviets said to USA that if you attack on India, Soviet will be attacking on USA. So that was a period where the friendship was at, you can say, peak. Okay. Uh, so that was extremely important thing. Even now also, if we talk about defense relations, definitely we exchange a lot of defense equipments from, we buy it from Russia. So 60 to 70% of India's defense equipments, they're estimated to be of Russian origin. Over the last 25 years, India has decided to look beyond Russia, especially we have diversified our strategic partnerships and we are focusing on USA. Apart from that, for defense equipments, we are also dependent on France. Okay, so we know about the Rafale. So France, we are dependent on France. We are also dependent on Israel. So earlier, Russia was the main country for defense equipments, but over the past few years, we have diversified. So we are now buying defense equipments from USA, France, and Israel also because but however, we cannot still cannot afford to ignore Moscow. Okay, so that is there. Uh, Also, one thing which is quite in news that ever since the beginning of the Ukraine war, India is buying large amount of Russian oil at a discount price, right? So this is also an important thing because whatever the intricacies are happening in West Asia, we are seeing that the oil prices are soaring, and this is definitely a boon for India also that we get an oil for a discounted rate, and definitely this is helping Russia also to finance its war. So yeah, so we are buying oil from Russia at a discount price. The war has, however, when we look at this war, Russia-Ukraine war, it has put India into a very delicate diplomatic position where India had to balance its Western allies and, on the other hand, Russia, okay, the most trusted partner. And India is walking on a very, you can say, a tight rope and balancing itself between Russia and Western alliances. Okay, so that is there. Yes, definitely India is of the opinion that war should not continue. India never supports such things, but definitely at the same time, we have to balance between Russia and the Western allies. Okay, now for your information, this visit, which ongoing visit. So this is a part of annual bilateral summits between the leaders of the two countries, and such summits are happening since 2000. Okay, so since 2000, two countries, that is Russia and India, are organizing their annual summits, and 21 such summits have taken place between India and Russia. Okay, so that's it from this article. Let us move towards the next article. So next article is from the environment perspective, GS3. Why Arctic wildfires are bad news for the world. Okay. So let us try to understand what is the ongoing story. So smoke from raging wildfires has once again darkened the skies over Arctic. Okay. So definitely Arctic is undergoing rapid wildfires, and this is resulting into darkened smoke across the skies across Arctic. Okay, so it is a third time in the past 5 years that high intensity fires have erupted in the Arctic region, and this was being noted by Europe's Copernicus climate change service. Okay. Now, let us try to understand what are the key takeaways. So, wildfire, when we talk about it, has been a natural part of Arctic boreal forest, or you can say snow forest, and tundra, that is a treeless region. Okay. So, definitely, if you look at it, it's a naturally, even in India, when we look at the deciduous forest and all. So, every year, wildfires do occur, but in limited instances, it's good. But due to climate change and all, we are seeing that the frequency and the intensity is increasing, which is not at all sustainable. Okay. So, however, in the recent years, you can see over here, in the recent years, this frequency and scale has increased. And this is mainly because of global warming. And this is further fueling the climate crisis. So that is definitely not good. So Arctic has been warming roughly 4 times as fast as the rest of the world. And this has resulted into more frequent lightning in the Arctic, and which has further increased the livelihood of wildfire. So you can see this has created a vicious cycle, a mechanism, okay? That is global warming. It has resulted into uh, increase in the temperature. That is further resulting into lightning. That is further resulting into more and more wildfires, which will again result into more and more global warming. So this has created a cycle, okay? Now, what is this affecting? Now, these wildfires are raising the temperature of Arctic, and this has slowed down polar jet stream. Okay, so polar jet stream, you must be aware about that. Jet stream are basically geostrophic winds. These are geostrophic winds which blow horizontally in the upper layers of troposphere. They blow in the upper layers of troposphere. And the most important aspect of these jet streams are that they develop in the areas where air masses of differing temperature meet. So temperature difference is important for the creation of this jet stream. Okay, so now what is happening? Now this polar jet stream, where in the polar and in the mid latitudes, because of the temperature difference, it gets created. But now what is happening, since um, because of the global warming and because of the frequent wildfires, the temperature is increasing. The temperature is increasing in the Arctic region, and because of which the temperature difference is narrowing. The temperature difference is there, uh, which is required for the formation of the jet stream. That temperature difference is narrowing, and that is affecting the creation of the polar jet streams. Okay, so due to less of the temperature difference, you can see over here the second line, which it's just a second, I'll clear this. Yeah, so second line over here where it mentions, yeah, due to less of a temperature difference between Arctic and lower latitudes, we are seeing that polar jet stream, it is being affected. Okay, and what affect in the sense what? So its creation is affected, and the second thing, its speed is being affected. It gets stuck in one place, and since it is stuck in one place, it's not flowing, it's not fluid, it's not flowing, it's stuck in one place, so it brings unseasonably warm weather to that region, that is the Arctic region. Okay, so as a result, the third line you can see over here in the third line. Yeah, as a result, the polar jet stream often gets stuck in one place and brings unseasonably warm weather to the region. It also blocks out the low pressure system, which brings clouds and rainfall. Okay, now since it blocks the pressure system, so low pressure system, it results into instability, and that results into cloud formation and rainfall. But now what is happening? Since a polar jet stream, it's getting stuck at one place. It is blocking this low pressure system, which is responsible for cloud formation, for rainfall. Now that is not happening. So if there is no rainfall, no cloud formation, what will happen? More and more intense heat waves will be there. More and more wildfires will happen. So this is important because you might have noticed from last 2 years, the number of questions from geography are increasing. Okay. So from the geography perspective, this is very important that because of the climate change, Arctic is warming. So Arctic is warming, resulting into lightning, which is further resulting into wildfires. So wildfires are happening, which is further increasing the temperature. And what is the impact of all this? This is affecting the polar jet stream. Okay, so polar jet stream, its creation, it's being affected, its flow is being affected. It is getting stuck at one place. And as a result, what do we see? Since it is getting stuck at one place, that particular place witnesses warm weather. That is intense heat waves. Okay, intense heat waves are being noticed over here. And the next important thing, it obstructs low pressure system. So low pressure system, it's not being formed. It gets obstructs over here. Okay, and because of which, since the low pressure system is obstruct, we see that rainfall is being affected over here. Okay, so all the three, further what is being mentioned over here, all the three factors, rising temperature, more frequent lightning, and the heat waves will most likely worsen in the upcoming years, and we can witness more and more wildfires in the Arctic region. By 2050, it is estimated that the wildfires in Arctic and around the world would increase by one third, according to a report by World Wildlife Fund. Okay, so it is expected to increase by one third. And now, further, why this wildfire? Everything it's dangerous. What it can result into? So definitely, when the wildfire ignites, it will burn the vegetation, organic matter. More and more CO2 will be released. More and more greenhouse gases will be there in the atmosphere, and that will further raise the temperature. Apart from that, now, when we talk about Arctic, we know about the permafrost region, right? So here the vegetation is in the frozen form, okay, buried. They are not decomposed. The litter, and you can see the animal remains and all, they are not decomposed. They are frozen, correct? Now, what will happen because of the increase in the temperature? There will be thawing in the sense the snow will begin to melt. So what will happen? This litter and all will start to decompose, and as a result, more and more carbon dioxide will be released. So that is a big worry. Apart from that, one more worry is that now viruses, bacteria. Now, since they are in the frozen atmosphere, certain viruses and bacteria are inactive. But once the temperature increases, what will happen? They will become active, and there is a possibility of some new disease, deadly diseases coming. So, this is all being mentioned into this. Okay, so wildfires make permafrost more vulnerable to thawing. It will destroy the upper insulating layer of the vegetation and soil, and the ancient organic matter will begin to decompose and release more and more carbon in the atmosphere. So hence this is a cause of concern. Next article, Digital Bharat Nidhi, government's fresh attempt at improving rural telecom connectivity. So from the economy perspective, GS2 and GS3, government policies and interventions and digital infrastructure. GS3, it is a part of digital infrastructure. GS2, government policies and intervention. Okay. So, Department of Telecommunication on July 4th released draft rules to operationalize Digital Bharat Nidhi. Okay. Digital Bharat Nidhi. Nidhi, from the word we come to know, it is some type of a kosh. Kosh in the sense fund. So this fund, it is a dedicated fund for improving the telecom infrastructure, especially in the rural area. So earlier, we used to have a fund that was a Universal Service Obligation Fund. So you can see over here in the key takeaways, this one, USOF, Universal Service Obligation Fund. But the issue with this fund was that it was not utilized in a proper manner. Okay, underutilization. Okay, so criticism, you can see where a common criticism of USOF has been that underutilization. It was established in 2003. Now the new fund, Digital Bharat Nidhi, would replace this USOF. Okay, and this which is a pool of fund generated by, so this USOF, okay, was generated by 5% levy on all the telecom operators. So whatever is their aggregated, adjusted gross revenue for the year, on that 5% was levied, and that has to be deposited into the fund. Okay, who? That is telecom operators, like you have Airtel, you have Jio. Okay, so whatever is their gross revenue, adjusted gross revenue, uska 5% has to be put into the fund. But the problem was that the fund was not utilized in a proper manner. Okay. Now, so this new fund has been created, Digital Bharat Nidhi. So just remember, Digital Bharat Nidhi will replace Universal Service Obligation Fund. And this fund, whatever money is being deposited into this, it will be used for the expansion of the telecom network in the remote areas, in the rural areas. Okay, so that will be there. Then, yeah. So, while with the center notifying parts of the Telecom Act last month, it has proposed additional rules for makeover of USOF as Digital Bharat Nidhi. So basically, this USOF, that is only uska hi makeover karke, they are making it as a Digital Bharat Nidhi, and it will have a relatively wider scope than the USOF. Okay. One more update which is being mentioned over here is that the money will first go to the Consolidated Fund of India. So first the money will go into the Consolidated Fund of India, and from that Consolidated Fund of India, as and when required, so whatever money is coming from the telecom companies, it will go into the Consolidated Fund of India, and then it will go to the Digital Bharat Nidhi. Okay, so then subsequently it will be time to time it will be deposited into this, right? And this will be basically used for promoting uh, telecom services in the underserved rural, remote, and even the underserved urban areas. Then for research and development, for funding pilot projects, okay, for the introduction of the telecom technologies, for all these things, the fund will be utilized. Let's come towards the next article. So the next article, it's about NSA, National Security Advisor. So recently, new additional National Security Advisor has been appointed, and certain restructuring has been done. Okay, so that has been mentioned over here. So earlier we only had NSA. So we know that Ajit Doval is the National Security Advisor, but now a new post has been created, and Rajinder Khanna, he was a former RAW chief, he has been appointed as the additional NSA. Okay, so now we will be having additional NSA as Rajinder Khanna. Right? Earlier we had only NSA, but now you have additional one. So what will be the new structure now? So the new structure will be, so we will have NSA, then we will have additional NSA, and apart from that we will have three deputy NSA. So three deputy NSA. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, right? And it is said that additional NSA will be a link between NSA and this three. Okay, so because NSA could basically focus on some broader things, so he will be acting as a link. Okay, so that is being mentioned over here. Center has appointed Rajinder Khanna, the former RAW chief, as the additional NSA, a newly created post. Okay, so that is an important thing. Expanded role of NSA. So now NSA presides over a larger organization. So now we have a larger organization because now we have NSA, we have additional NSA, and we have three deputy NSA. Okay, and the role will be like NSA ka role will be more of an advisory in nature, right? So that is being mentioned over here. Reporting hierarchy, NSA interacts with the bodies like National Security Advisory Board. Okay, then he interacts with the Strategic Policy Group. Fine. Even the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of three services, Army, Navy, Air Force, various union secretaries. Okay, they report to NSA apart from their respective ministers. Okay, like for example, you have Secretary of Finance. So he will be reporting to the finance minister. Apart from that, he'll be also reporting to the NSA. Fine. So that is an important. So that is a reporting hierarchy. NSA. So I'll mention over here. Okay. Uh, Interacts with National Security Advisory Board. Interacts with Strategic Policy Group. Apart from that, Chief of Defense Staff, three chiefs uh, of the three services, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the union secretaries, they all report to NSA. Okay, so they report to NSA, and it is said that additional NSA will be a gatekeeper in the communication. So he will be acting as a chain between three deputy NSAs and the three service officers. Okay, so that is being mentioned over here. So the new additional NSA will be a link, communication link. Okay, so that is being there. Additional things mentioned in the article is there. One can see that a quarter century after the creation of the office of NSA, the institution, its place within the national government and responsibilities are evolving. Okay, so this organization is evolving, it's being getting expanded, the role is getting expanded. Okay, now the issue is that there is no specific criteria, guidelines that who should be the NSA. So he could be anyone, a diplomat, a scholar, a soldier, former raw chief. Okay, so there is it's an open book, there's no clear guidelines who can be the NSA. Okay, so that is being there. Finally, there has been a recent controversy about the activities of raw. So we know that the global raw has been in global focus mainly because of the charges levied by the state agencies in Canada and USA over the Khalistani activist. Okay, so that's being enrolled. So that is being mentioned over here. So that's it. You just need to know that this particular organization is evolving and some new post has been created. Okay, we can try this question from 2014. In the Constitution of India, promotion of international peace and security is included in which of the following? Okay, so promotion of international peace and security is included in which of the following? So preamble, no. DPSP as such, there is no DPSP on international peace, yes. Fundamental duty, article number 51, it talks about this, this, yes. So we were here, fundamental duties, yes, article number 51A, which deals with the fundamental duties. And then you have the last fundamental duty, which talks about international peace and security. Okay, so your answer is C, fundamental duties. Coming towards the next article, food for rainy day. Okay, so important from the prelims perspective and mains GS2 and GS3. Okay, so article says that government must consider creating a buffer stock not just for rice and wheat but even for other products. Okay, so usually the buffer stock is being maintained for rice and wheat, but now experts say that we know we need to have a buffer stock for pulses, also for oil seeds, for sugar, for skimmed milk powder, and for the staple vegetables. Now, this is being said, taking into consideration the uncertainty of monsoon, price fluctuations and all, and as a result, you need to have some backup. Okay, so key takeaways: government must consider creating a buffer stock, not just of rice and wheat, but even pulses, oil seeds, sugar, etc. The idea is not to set prices, but to curb too much volatility. Okay, so we often see that there is a volatility fluctuation in the prices of the vegetables, and also to handle that, you need to have a backup. Okay, so increasing volatility and unpredictability of food prices has primarily to do with the climate change. So you have fewer rainy days, sometimes dry spells are there, then achanak say you have an intense precipitation, shorter winters, heat waves. All this has affected the productivity of agricultural outputs. Okay, so this has seen, like we have witnessed poor crops of rabi pulses, tomato, potato, even wheat in central India. So this is resulting into a lot of fluctuations in the price and supply. So such supply shocks, okay? So supply shocks are mainly because of climate. Also, we have seen that Russia-Ukraine war disrupted the supply of wheat, fertilizer, also pandemic like things, okay? So all this has resulted into very large price spikes. Sometimes farmer achanak say they do a lot of sowing of one particular crop, and that results into too much of production, resulting into price crash. Okay, so all these issues are there, and as a result, it is being said that creating a buffer stock of essential food items is required. Okay, and this can help us during the time of extreme price fluctuation, right? So that is being mentioned over here. That's it. And a buffer stocking policy will also do away with the need for regressive anti-farmer measures such as banning exports or imposing stock limits. Okay, so even this won't be required if you keep a buffer stock. Coming towards the next article is a bend in the river. So it's important from the GS2, GS3, India and its neighborhood relations, environment perspective also. Okay. So what is the ongoing story? Bhumika Sharma writes, recognizing climate change as a common vulnerability and shifting focus from mere river management to holistic basin management that prioritizes sustainability would re-establish the treaty as the bright spot in the country's relations. Okay. So writer is saying that we need to focus on holistic basin management rather than just a river management. Okay. So the article is with respect to uh, Indus Treaty. So we all know that the Indus Water Treaty was signed between India and Pakistan in 1960, brokered by World Bank. Okay. So as per this treaty, water of these three rivers, RBS, it's being given to India, Ravi, Bias, and Satluj, and the remaining one, that is the Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, it's to Pakistan. Okay, but we know that because of climate change and all, uh, flow of water is being affected. So treaty was signed in 1960, but now because of the climate change and all, it is affecting the flow of the water and all. And as a result, we need to relook at the treaty. So India has called for the amendments. Last year only, India had called for the amendment into this Indus Water Treaty. Okay, so the changing realities such as climate change uh, has made us to amend the treaty, and hence we should give a second thought for it. In 2015, Indus Basin was ranked by NASA as the world's second most overstressed aquifer. Okay, so the lot of groundwater extraction has been done over here. An estimated 31% of the net basin flow originates from the climate impacted glaciers. So 31% of the net flow of this Indus River basin, okay, it comes from the glaciers, and these glaciers are affected by climate change. Okay, so glaciers and snow melts making mean annual flow volatile and seasonal because we yeah. Other factors like unpredictable monsoon also attribute to increased variability of the flow volume. So there is a change in the flow volume. Earlier, जो था in 1960, the volume and the distribution, water distribution, same it's not continuing now because of all these factors. And as a result, we have to look at uh, we need to re-look at the treaty. Okay, so there is a need to go beyond this insular approach. Now what during this treaty, what they just did the partitioning of the Indus river system, like the three rivers were given to India, Ravi, RBS, Ravi, Bias, and Satluj, these three, and the three were given to Pakistan. So now it's being said that we just partitioning the river will not do it. Okay, you need to have take into consideration that all the factors, the water volume, the entire geographical unit has to be taken into consideration, and the treaty has to be amended so that it benefits all the stakeholders. Okay. And so we need to integrate ecological perspective in the governance framework. And secondly, understanding of climate change induced impacts and increased population pressure on the hydrology of a river, it's being needed. So basically, the article talks about that climate change is affecting the volatility of the flow, and as a result, we need to look into holistic management of the basin, river basin. We have to take into consideration all these factors, and we need to relook at the treaty and water distribution. Next article, a trust deficit with farmers. Okay, a trust deficit with farmers. So article is important from GS2, GS3 perspective. Government policies and intervention, GS2, Indian economy and agriculture, GS3. So Ashok Gulati writes, trust is the foundation of any relation. If agriculture in the country has to be put on a fast and sustainable track, the first order of business must be to attempt to converge on important reforms in agriculture. So, the author is hinting towards the required reforms in the agricultural sector, which can build the trust between the government and the Indian farmers. Okay. So, what is the suggestion given over here? the best way to do it is to form two agri councils. So suggestion is to form two agricultural councils. One council should be such that it should have the representatives from each state, one with the representative of farmers from each state. Okay. The author is saying that we need to form two agri councils. Okay. So the first council should have farmers representatives. Okay. So say two per state. So from per state, two representatives should be there. One should be the cultivator and one should be the tenant. Okay. So from every state, you should have two farmers representative. One should be the cultivator, one should be the tenant. And this will be called as the farmers council. Okay. So that is it. And the second council should comprise agri ministers of each state. Okay, so basically agri ministers of each state. So this is similar to the GST council. Okay, so on the lines of the GST council. And these councils must meet at least twice a year, one at the beginning of Kharif and one at the beginning of the Rabi. Okay, and then they should have discussion over the reforms in the agri sector. Okay. Uh, so that is the first thing which is hinted by the author, that you need to have councils. Okay. Second thing, climate change is already knocking on our heads, and farming will be impacted in a big way unless we take some bold steps. Okay. So ICAR, Indian Council for Agricultural Research, its funding needs to be increased. So we need to do research on the uh, crops, and we need to develop drought resilient or such crops which are resilient to climate change. Okay. So for that, we need to invest in research and development. So that is the need of the time. And in the short run, we need to fix crop insurance scheme. So Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which was started in 2016, after 2 years cut drought, uh, when agriculture GDP had collapsed and farming community was under a deep stress. So this was a very good step. But author says that success of any such scheme depends upon how effectively they are being implemented. Okay, so an important article, and you can definitely write these suggestions in the mains answer. If there's a question on agriculture, what reforms are required, so you can write according to the experts, according to the agri scientists. We can have the two councils, farmer council and the ministers council, right? So that can be mentioned as a suggestion. You can mention this as a suggestion, increasing the funding of ICER. Okay? So it's a good article. Coming towards the next article, that is hoping for a miracle at Conference of Parties 29. Okay, so we know that in the month of November we'll be having UNFCCC Conference of Party 29 at Baku, that is in Azerbaijan. Okay, so Baku, Azerbaijan. We will have Azerbaijan. Okay. So hoping for some miracle at this conference, that's being written over here. Okay. So what miracle we are talking here? In the sense now, we all know that this has been a repetitive scenario in every conference. They are talking about the funding. Okay. So funding is the primary thing of discussion. Funding, that is, the developed countries should contribute money so that the climate change activities can happen in developing countries. Okay. So that is being mentioned over here. Somita Das Gupta writes, we are back to where we left off in Conference of Parties 28, which happened in Dubai, UAE. Okay. So there was no consent. Again, now a precursor meeting happened in Bonn. Okay. But there was no consensus regarding the source, that is a money transfer for climate change. Okay. Uh, in last conference, they talked about a new thing, that is this NCQG, new collective quantified goal. Okay, where they said that the money will come from the developed countries and all. Lately, it is being also said that not only developed countries, even China and Saudi Arabia should also be viewed as the donors. So all these things are going on, the narratives are going on, but finally, a particular mechanism is not put into place in what manner the funding will happen. So article says that let's hope that some miracle happens at conference of party 29 and a proper mechanism is put into perspective where it will be defined who will be contributing how much and how the fund will be working, how the fund will be operational. Okay. Now, apart from that, the issue of China. So it's being mentioned that the China is largest polluter and also China's GDP and per capita income has also increased in the last 2 decades. So definitely China should also be a donor rather than the recipient. But on the other hand, China says that we are still a developing country as per the guidelines of UNCCC. And as a result, we are not going to contribute, rather we will be on the receiving end. So that narrative goes on. So let's see when the meeting happens, we'll get the updates. Okay. The other important things, high temperature cause occasional spike in air pollution in summer. Fine study. Okay. So air quality study was being done in Delhi, Mumbai, Patna, Lucknow, and Kolkata. So we know that during winter season, the pollution levels and all are very high in Delhi and all because of the fog and smoke. But now it is being noticed that because of the intense heat waves, occasional spike in the temperature has also, during that time, it is seen that even the particulate matter 2.5, even its quantity increases. So high temperature is also causing spike in air pollution, particularly PM 2.5. So new study reveals this. Okay. Next is UP, West Bengal, and Maharashtra had the highest share of informal sector enterprises in 2022-2023. Okay, so important thing, UP, Maharashtra, and West Bengal, they had largest informal sector in both rural and urban areas in the latest annual survey of unincorporated enterprises released by Mosby. So an important thing you need to remember. That's it for July 8 current affairs. Thank you.